Welcome to Confessions of Being Fabulous, where we live, we learn, we grow. Thank you so much for being here on my channel. And this is video number, I believe, 71 for me, 71, or maybe 70, 71, or 72. And somebody told me that when you first start a YouTube channel, the first 100 videos, nobody's going to see anyway. So, so that's a great time for you to kind of experiment and figure out your lane and what that looks like. And I've done exactly that. So to date, those videos have been a wide range of different topics, but I do feel like I'm slowly starting to really gather my calling with respect to this channel. And I even updated my profile because of it. So I really think that this channel is all about my ability to change my feeling state, my state of mind, my way of being. Sometimes at a moment's notice, sometimes with, some techniques that may take a little bit longer. But the whole point of it is that I know how to do it. I've practiced doing it for years now. And I think the purpose of this channel is for me to show you how to do it, one, but then two, explain the why behind it. And so the why for me, if I had to just sum it up from occurrence to occurrence, I'm sure there was something specific happening, but at large, it's all about the idea of progress for me. And I never want to feel like because of what has happened, I'm now somehow stuck, and it happens, unfortunately, to a lot of us all the time. We go through things in life and sometimes we just never bounce back from it. And it's sad, especially when there's something that's really promising on the horizon. It's something that maybe you're called to be doing, something that's going to bless other people. And to not fully be present for that, to me, is like one of the saddest experiences in life, frankly. So as I really kind of come into my own in this channel, I'm really, really feeling like that is the point of it all. I'm going to teach you guys how to change the way that you feel when you know that you need to do so, because you don't have time to be wasting. You got stuff to do. And like I said, sometimes that stuff is, maybe it's only important to you and not a bunch of other people, but that matters too. It might be important to you because you already know the end game for it. You already know what's at the end of that rainbow. Nobody else may know. It's not their vision, so they're not supposed to know. But if you know that you're called to do something, big or small, that part doesn't matter. But if it's something that needs to get done, but you find that your feelings, the way that you are, showing up, the energy that you're bringing to the table is just like, I just made that face because that was the best way in that moment I could describe. I didn't have words, but you know what I mean? Like when it's just like a, like you can't move with that. If it's not fluid, if it's not shimmy, 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 not that kind of energy. I've had nothing to drink, by the way. This is all natural. Yeah, then that's a problem. So anyway, so tonight I wanted to just briefly make this video. Oh, I know why I'm excited, because I just put my son to bed. Bedtime. I'm very excited about that. But tonight I wanted to do this brief video and talk about, kind of go into a little bit more about the advantages of learning how to change how you feel in a moment's notice. So the best way I can kind of explain this is through multiple videos, obviously, hence the channel. But for today's video, I'm going to just tell a story. And this is a true story. This is just one example of many stories that I think I took for granted down through the years that I even had these stories. Because again, I've just, been in these streets, changing, multitasking, changing the way that I feel when I know that I need to do so. So anyway, so here's the story. So one time, and for those of you that don't know, I am an attorney. I am an entertainer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mommy. And so I lead a pretty dynamic life. And I'm not just saying that like to be braggadocious. It's an actual fact. So depending on the year, I may have been in a situation where I'm helping a client, and then right after the client, I'm in the studio, and then after the studio, I have to go home and do some work for another client or whatever. Once I became a mom, my son is now 6, that added a whole other level of life. So I lead a pretty busy life. I'm learning now how to be a better manager of all of the different components, and what that entails nowadays is me really being aware of what kind of energy I can offer you, what kind of energy I'm willing to put into certain situations, what kind of energy I'm willing to kind of part with at the end of the day, because we're all exerting energy, whether we want to look at it like that or not. So anyway, this was back before I was a mom. I was living in the city at the time, in New York. I recently moved outside of New York, on the outskirts. I'm back in Jersey, and living in the city. And I think that, as you've probably heard people say, New York is the concrete jungle. And it's not just like something you hear, it's the truth. It really is the concrete jungle. Everything is harder there. It may potentially take you longer to do something that somebody else could do in another market fairly quickly or easier than you. And along with just the reality of that piece of it, the physical aspect of it, you have the emotional turmoil that you may be going through because you're trying to achieve what I often call these larger than life dreams, in the largest city in the world. So it's just a lot. So I was having one of those moments where I was basically just feeling like defeated, like I had started a law practice. I got barred in New York in 2007, and kind of right out the gate, because the economy crashed in 2008, I was forced to, kind of figure things out on my own. There weren't a lot of jobs or mentors or any of that, because we were in a recession, and it looked like we were in a recession. So this wasn't right in the very, very beginning. This might have been like a few years in, maybe more than a few years, like 2011, 2012, something like that. And I remember I was, trying to get clients always, but this particular period, like I wanted a new client, because I had something specific that I needed to do financially, just to be honest with you. And that was the way that I made my money. I had some projects with other law firms where I would kind of be an independent contractor for them and do stuff like that. But I needed my own client, somebody that's going to come along and pay me what I need to be paid, not the many favors I did where somebody's paying me like a couple of $100, and what are you buying with a couple of $100 in New York City? A piece of bread. But anyway, I needed what I needed. So I literally went to Central Park, which was often a place that I would go to just to kind of bask in the energy of both the city and the nature, because I love nature and I love New York City. So it's like, on the one hand, it's the concrete jungle, and you might have moments where you hate it, but then on the other hand, it's so vibrant and it's amazing, and you like all of that energy. So I would have days where I would go to Central Park just to soak all of that up, all of the confusion, every piece of it, something about it was like therapy for me. So went there, and sometimes that would be it. I would just go and I would absorb the nature, and by absorbing the nature and absorbing the energy, I would actually feel better after sitting there for, didn't even need to be a long time, but even if I stayed for like an hour and some change, like, the objective was always the same, and that would just be it, like literally just sitting and kind of basking in the sun. This particular day though, I'm like, nope. I said I need to go into like something that felt more like action, something beyond just sitting. And so I took a notebook with me, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a story. And I'm like, I'm gonna write this story, and I'm not gonna stop writing this story until I feel like a different person, until I feel better. So I went to the park with the notebook. I started writing the story. The story essentially went something like this. I'm so happy and grateful that I ran into this guy today, And come to find out, he's an entrepreneur. So after we started having a conversation about his business and what he's trying to do, he ended up saying that he's been looking for a lawyer for some time now, and he couldn't find this lawyer. And so he was starting to feel like he would just go to the internet and get some stuff done himself, or maybe go to a family member or whatever and ask for a referral. But lucky me, we interact, and before you know it, now he's asking me about what I do. So when I told him that I worked with some people in the entertainment industry, some entrepreneurs, I told him my family owns a gospel radio station and I'm the general counsel for that. I told him all of these things about me, and by the end of that conversation, he wanted to hire me. So what went from just a random kind of exchange on the street turned into me meeting this guy, having this amazing conversation. I quickly told him, once he said he wanted to hire me, the way that I worked, what he could expect. And then I told him that my retainer fee was going to be X amount of dollars. I think at the time I put, this is me stepping out of the story. At the time, I believe I put that the retainer fee was $5,000. Or I might have just said, I'm going to charge you $5,000. So I don't know. I don't remember how I quoted it, but $5K was the number. I do remember that. And so stepping back into the story. So I told him the way that I work. I told him what I would charge. And by the end of that conversation, he said that he wanted to move forward. And we quickly figured out how I was going to get him my information. He was going to make his payment. And within 24 hours, we got started. And now he's one of my new clients and everything's going great. So the story went something to that effect. It might have been a little more, polished than the way that I just said it. But that's literally about how the story went. So fast forward, I don't remember because some time has passed now, but it wasn't a long time. I could say that for sure. It could have been, I don't know, maybe a week. If I wanted just to be safe, add some time to that. Okay, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe we can even say maybe 3, but I really don't even think it was like a week. And this is exactly what happened. Now, I don't remember if the guy was like random and we met on the street. We might have met through, because I used to be a regular speaker at Legal Night for the National Action Network. They used to have meetings every last Thursday of the month. I believe they actually still do. Resume recently, I believe, online, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a part of it right now, but for many years I was. And it's very, very possible I met him through there. So I don't know that to be a fact, but I'm like 90% thinking that's where I met him from. But the rest of the story, that's essentially how it happened. We had, at that event, sparked up a conversation. He explained what he was trying to do. Apparently he was trying to get help from somebody else, didn't work, blah, 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 blah. And he retained me, and that was the money that I asked for, $5K. I got the $5K, assisted with the need, and went on about my life. So stopping here, that story is important to me because I think it was kind of the first time I had really understood certain things up to then that I was only reading about. Like I was reading about, the power of positive thinking and the power, the very first book that I ever read on like the subconscious mind was by Joyce Meyer, the Battlefield of the Mind. Yeah, Battlefield of the Mind, I believe is the name of it. And Think and Grow Rich, like all of these other books that I had started to be exposed to around 2011. So up to now, it was just like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you could choose. It was really, for me, that was my response. Like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could choose the way that I feel, and I could choose my thoughts. And like, I didn't know I had a choice in any of this. I just thought, life happens and then it naturally produces a certain feeling, and you just do your best to do the work that you need to do and to live life the way you want to live it. But I really didn't know that there was any control until I started reading books like that. And those are just a few. That doesn't even scratch the surface. But at that time, I remember those were some like early books that I was exposed to. So this story in particular is important because mommy's doing a video right now. I will turn the night light on. You don't need it right now. Go. Sorry. So where was I? He would come in right at that moment. I was exposed to all of this, and this was the first time it became real for me. That's the point that I'm making. So it was almost like everything that I read, all of this stuff that maybe I had kind of been putting that in action beforehand and I just didn't know. This was the first time I like intentionally did it, and I made that connection, and I'm like, oh, word. I could just go write a story, and I feel like from that day forward, I maybe didn't make like an open vow to be a certain way, but it's like, yo, when you know things, like, you can't forsake what you know. So in that moment, I learned something. I learned something about our minds. I learned something about our ability to turn situations around, our ability to kind of choose the end result that we want to see, and it's not to say that I felt like I was in control of every single situation at that time. There were many things that, maybe after that I tried to write a story and nothing happened. But I do feel like I learned a valuable lesson that day. And that lesson was that when you were going through something, I was feeling kind of like, just in the dumps. And I knew I couldn't stay there. Like, I knew I had to get out of that state in order for life to move. You know what I'm saying? So before life moved, I felt like I had to move. And I didn't even fully know what that meant, but I just believed it. I'm like, if life is going to move, life ain't moving until I move. So what can I do to move? And that was what I came up with at the time. I wrote a story, and the rest is history. So that's just an example. And the advice isn't even necessarily for me to tell you, go write a story right this second, although that is a tool that I'll use to this day, and it absolutely works. And it may not always result in exactly as I wrote the story, but again, it may result in movement, and that's what we want, right? That's why we out in these streets doing what we do, like we're trying to accomplish things. And I also, side note, I'm also realizing the more I speak in these videos are probably not going to resonate with everyone. To some people, all of these videos are extra because it's like, why? But for my, some may call you overachievers, or I like to just call you ambitious people. It's just a way that you are used to moving and showing up in this life, and nobody has the right to tell you that that's not necessary, right? So, I've run 2 marathons, 2 New York City marathons at that, and some might say, why? I don't need a reason. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to challenge myself, and I did it, So I'm that type of person. So those type of people are likely going to resonate with this content. And I just had to say that. So that way you can kind of know now in the early stages what to expect from this channel. But sometimes we just don't have the luxury to feel, down or depressed or, whatever. And it's not to forsake your feelings, because I also, fast forward now, in 2023, I have a therapist. I started with one for the first time during the pandemic, actually last year, to be specific, in 2022, after having gone through something that I never really went through before. Like, I guess I had a bout of depression that was just, it was unbearable, to be very honest with you. And that'll be a separate video, but the therapist has been super helpful, and I'm realizing that it is healthy to acknowledge your feelings. Like, don't try to forsake them. Don't try to act like, they don't happen. If you're feeling sad, don't try to say like, oh no, I'm not sad. Like, acknowledge it, because that release is also important. But this isn't about that. This is about like, all right, when it's time to really, make a decision about, okay, am I going this way or that way? Like, I want to encourage people to choose the direction that's going to get you closer to your dreams and goals. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the more feel-good direction. So the advice in this video is, sure, write a story if you want, but more importantly, to pick a tool, pick some tools, find ways that you can change your state of mind, your state of being, the way that you are on a dime, if you need to, because sometimes you will need to. And it's only in those moments where you really make that decision and then go and do it that you'll start to see things shift and move. Just pay attention. You don't even have to, this isn't even about me. I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I'm speaking facts, but you go and let it, seep into your consciousness the way it has for me by just experiencing it. Just go experience it. Just, if you find yourself in a somewhat depressed state, remember my words. If you want to get out of it and you want to shake things up a bit so that you can see some movement in a life situation that just seems to be stuck, go and do, any one of the techniques that I'm talking about in these different videos on this channel. Try one of them, and see if you don't experience some kind of movement. That's just how it works. So when you go and, for example, I wrote a story, it's energetically you're doing something that is now making life pay attention, making life react, making life respond. And on a deeper level, you're really creating these experiences. And I know that's not a conversation a lot of people are prepared to have just yet. So maybe we'll get into that in some later videos after I've shared more on this channel to build up to that. But you have more power and control than you think. That's how I'm gonna end it. All right, so pick a tool. If you feel like you need a pick-me-up, pick one of these tools that you feel like will allow you to accomplish that, and go and make it happen. And then just watch things start to slowly kind of shift, and sometimes all you need is a slight shift, and before you know it, you're in a whole different lane. The project is on a whole different level now. It's the speed is different, the people involved are different, everything about it is different because of one little shift. So don't underestimate the power of sitting on a park bench writing a story. If that'll make you feel more optimistic, go for it. Why not? Literally, what do you have to lose? And that was the other thing that kept going through my mind. I have nothing to lose. And if I want to call that moment in life rock bottom, my version of rock bottom, I know some people have some real rock bottoms where they don't have family and people have, passed on. And fortunately, I've always had a very supportive, loving family, anything that I've ever done. So my rock bottom, I'm almost hesitant to ever call any period in life a rock bottom because I've had so much love and support. But we all experience what we may feel is a rock bottom. And so when you reach that, you don't have anything to lose at that point. You're already at the bottom. You're already there. So why not? So that's just one example. I wrote a story, but whatever it is, find a technique. Some of them I'll share on this channel, so stay tuned. Some of them you can find elsewhere. That's fine too. But you want to find ways that you can get to a better feeling state, because when you feel better, you do different things. When you do different things, that results in different conversations, and it leads to different thoughts and ideas and different actions, and all of that different is why life is now different because you initiated something different. Does that make sense? So that's it for tonight, because I could go on and on and on. But I wish you lots of fun, laughter, abundance in your life. Peace.